Alright, you guys, just a short one. What's going on? Happy Purim 2026. I guess technically it ended yesterday. I'm recording now Tuesday. It ended Tuesday. I'm recording now Wednesday. I saw that it continues into Wednesday in Jerusalem, and I would say it's not really something I grew up celebrating. I know about the book of Esther. I'd say I grew up reading it, but not all the time. But definitely read it, and let's see. So I kind of missed it. I was kind of more focused on the moon situation. It's been interesting, and it's also been Ramadan for quite a bit now. I don't remember the start date or when it ends. But yeah, we also had an eclipse this week. In my area, it was near about 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. I did not view it, but I did see the gigantic moon beforehand, and that kind of led me to, I don't know why I went on the Chabad site, but I was like, it's a full moon, and I went on there to check things out, and then of course they put the announcements right at the top of the website, so I was able to catch it that it was Purim, and I saw that yesterday. And I don't really have anything really specific to say, but the Chabad site just has like a general explanation of the holiday. It says, I'll read kind of it's pretty short, this explanation. It says, the Megillah, book of Esther. Esther is the heroine. Do you still say it that way? I know it's not heroin, like the substance. Heroine of the Purim story, in which the Jewish people who live in the sprawling Persian Empire are saved from Haman's evil scheme to annihilate them. The dramatic saga was written down so the Jewish people could read about the amazing turn of events every year on the holiday of Purim, the anniversary of the Jews' victory over their enemies. The Megillah of Esther, Megillah means scroll in Hebrew, is one of the 5 Megillahs that are included in the biblical canon. Esther is the only one to be commonly read from a handwritten parchment scroll. And it has a bunch of links. There's more of an expansion of that explanation, and it has a bunch of links. I'm probably going to sleep pretty soon, but I might listen to one of them as I'm falling asleep. I'll probably fall asleep in the middle of it, but it's okay. To me, that's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's offensive. I don't really know, but and I guess it's a holiday where people dress up. They eat what's called Hamantashen, and when the book of Esther's read aloud, because it's traditional to hear it read aloud, people spin I don't know what they're called, but they're like these really loud noise makers. People make a lot of noise almost to like block out the name when Hammond is spoken. Just as like a tradition of like nobody wants to hear his name. And it's very interesting. I was pretty curious to know if Jesus sorry, I'm yawning. If Jesus celebrated Purim. And I know there's some proof of Jesus having celebrated various holidays. And part of me is like, sometimes when I read certain parts, and then I kind of try to guess, like, if it was in chronological order, it's like, okay, if it was Hanukkah here and then it was Passover there, what kind of time frame between, what was going on between those holidays, maybe approximately when might have a different holiday arrived that was not mentioned. So I'm skipping the AI. I'm going to Lambert Dolphin. I don't even know what this website is, but Lambert Dolphin, Gordon Franz. Okay, this might be a bit of a lengthy article and very I don't know. It's stressful to read. I don't know, but I don't know if it's idolphin.org or ldolphin.org. It looks like maybe I, like a capital I. But part of it says, I don't know if this is halfway down, but quite a bit down in this article, it says, most people are unaware of this, but Jesus celebrated the Feast of Purim. In John 5, the Lord Jesus is up in Jerusalem for an unnamed feast. Scholars have debated whether the feast was Passover, Purim, Sukkot, or even Pentecost. Some have objected to Purim because it is a minor feast and not one of the three major pilgrimage festivals. That argument is irrelevant because Jesus also celebrated another minor holiday, Hanukkah, in John 10:22. Chronologically, the only feast that makes sense is Purim in AD 28. The feast of John 5 fell on the only feast that fell on a Sabbath. So John 5:9 talks about that. The only feast day to fall on a Sabbath between AD 25 and AD 35 was Purim of AD 28. Interesting. I like that. The Spirit of God intentionally left out the name of the feast because the Lord's name was deliberately left out of the book of Esther. Okay, that is interesting, and I don't know. John 5, Jesus healed a man who had an infirmity for 38 years near the pools of Bethesda in John 5, 1-9. It is also the first time in his public ministry that he declared that God was his Father, making himself equal to God. John 5:18. He also said that he was the Son of God. John 5:25. and the Son of Man, John 5:27. Next paragraph. It just seems like it's a bunch of questions about if he dressed up in a costume, if he dressed like Mordecai, and where does it say to celebrate this feast or festival? I kind of like that history. That's an interesting take on looking at the calendars and going back to check and see what was happening as a festival in John chapter 5, if it fell on a Sabbath, and if there weren't any other holidays within a 10-day period other than that one that fell on a Sabbath. That's very interesting. So yeah, according to that type of historical math, it wouldn't be possible for it to be any other holiday. But it's interesting how they say the Spirit of God intentionally left out the name of the feast because the Lord's name was deliberately left out of the book of Esther. So I guess, maybe the name of God is not mentioned in the book of Esther at all. And there are a bunch of other sources cited here. When it talks about which holiday, it's Bowman 1971 is one of the sources. Franz 1998 is one of the sources from talking about Hanukkah as another minor holiday that Jesus was shown to have celebrated. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but it looks like it says Faulstich, 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 1986 reference to that historical math. So those are kind of some of the sources other than John chapter 5, verses, it looks like, if we look at all the verses here, verses 1 through 9, verse 18, verse 25, verse 27, and some other biblical verses talking about major pilgrimage festivals, Deuteronomy 16:16, talking about Hanukkah, John 10:22. In case you guys haven't noticed by now, I'm into this kind of stuff. So, but it's late. Sometimes I like to record a little bit late because I'll keep it shorter and I tend to ramble anyways. But it's nice to kind of keep it short because I'm tired and I kind of just wanted to do a little learning. I was reading some other thing earlier that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, it made sense, but it was one of those like otherworldly types of topics of readings that I was just like, this is not based in any, it was very like some really esoteric stuff. Like, it wasn't really easy to grasp, and it wasn't really like part of my kind of day-to-day. But yeah, like that was kind of one of the questions I had in mind was because I mentioned in 2026 it would be interesting to study more Jesus related content. I have been going back through a little bit of that Bruce Chilton book called Rabbi Jesus. I guess the best I can explain it is like, it's, I don't know if you call it a historical fiction, but maybe it's kind of like not necessarily, it's like very much using history to read into a lot of situations that a potential Jewish man, like Jesus, would have encountered during his time period. There was something really interesting that I was reading in there that was talking about the priestly, the Levites in the temple, and the, priestly caretakers of, who were in charge of the sacrifices and got all that food from the sacrifices, that they ate a lot more meat. They would have potentially eaten a lot more meat, possibly even in one day or 1 week, more meat than the average local Jewish person would eat in probably a year. And probably because of that protein intake and all of their food, they were like bigger, muscular, strong, kind of beefy dudes, in comparison to like the smaller stature people. And it was kind of setting up like the dynamic of kind of, maybe the types of, well, the whole book isn't about this specific topic, but it kind of does go into just historically what the scenes would have looked like, so some of the scenes, like where Jesus is arguing with people over meals, and they're arguing like, who were those people and why were they arguing, and why were they having these heated debates, and like there were like these clashes of subcultures within the Jewish culture of religious people. So it's very interesting. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of references in there and a lot of like history. I find it to be an easy way to kind of learn about Jewish history and Roman history and that time period. It's very like, it gives me like a good like visual picture, but it also isn't fully like, it'll take like portions of scripture and talk about them, and it's kind of in a chronological order. So it takes kind of like even from Jesus potentially as a youth, and talking about like what would it have been like for a Jewish male in a young age to have kind of the storyline going on in the background of, the Holy Spirit, or is Joseph considered his biological father? And if he wasn't, what would that be like? Because even nowadays, in a lot of cultures, and especially in religious cultures, if you don't have two biological parents, or if you have, maybe a family with divorce, or if you kind of have a, I don't know, like marriages and childbirth and kids and extended families and step family members and, all that kind of stuff, adopted people and all these types of things are very, even today, it's like some people might have an issue with that, or say something, or tease a kid, or, just in a lot of different cultures, even in like Western US modern culture, even without the religion, there still is a bit of taboo around birth and marriage and parents and all this kind of stuff. Like there is still kind of like an expectation for there to be like one heterosexual monogamous couple that has kids together only with the two of them and stay married forever. That is still kind of like almost the expected narrative, even though I guess over half of the people don't really do that. More than over half, if we're just talking about the divorce rate of straight couples, it's already been more than over 50% for quite a while now. So I don't know. I don't know what that. I don't know. I don't really know like all the reasoning behind that, but I just kind of like how that book goes into different topics like this. But it's not very. If you like things that are very like scripture based, a lot of it's like hypothesis, kind of theoretical. This is what it could have been like for Jesus, and the whole book is kind of centered around stories of Jesus in a chronological order, but kind of breaking down the parts enough to have a whole book where it's like it's partly like historically, maybe like historically accurate for the time as far as the potential of the themes that could come up, but as far as how it's written in the Bible, it's not really written in the New Testament Gospels word for word like that. And you know, but it is, I kind of like a story. It's almost like I wouldn't call it fan fiction, or like it almost feels like a fan fiction. It's like a historically accurate fan fiction. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, it's a pretty good book though. Like, I've read it before, but I've had it for so many years and read it in pieces, and then I've read it in the past. I just kind of I like that my memory is a little bit bad because I don't really remember a lot of things for way too long anymore. So, I'm getting to rewatch movies and reread books and stuff, and I'm like, I remember I liked this, but I don't remember what it was about fully, like in detail. And even with studying like Purim, like I haven't really looked into it too much up until now. I didn't even really spend time during the holiday looking into it, and I haven't really been on the Chabad site too much. I haven't really listened to the Parsha too much in full. Like, sometimes when I'm cooking breakfast, I might put it on in some headphones, because I like hearing it a little bit, but lately I haven't really been finishing it, and I haven't been studying it, reading it, or like every day, but I kind of circle back sometimes. It kind of just depends kind of what I'm in the mood for. I finished the class last Friday, and I started the process of trying to do that class probably somewhere near October of 2025, so it's been a long few months, and it has been kind of hard to study more, because I've been studying. I've been working on labs and studying for exams and doing countless amounts of reviews and multiple choice quizzes, and it's been great, but it's been lengthy and long, drain on my energy. But these types of things, I don't really find much of a reason to like fully stop studying them. And I figured today or tonight, I was like, I'm up, I want to read it. I was like, I don't feel the need to really wait till the morning, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, I was kind of dozing off a little bit earlier though. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. So I hope everybody's been enjoying the new month of March. Been enjoying the cool moon. I hope some people got to see the eclipse. If you're doing Ramadan, hopefully it's going well. If you did Purim, I hope it went good. If you've got Easter or Passover, Pesach coming up, I hope that's going to be a good time. If you're waiting for spring break, I hope you're ready. it's a party or whatever. But yeah, just wanted to get in a quick recording. I'm still kind of interested in that Gospel of Philip. I probably won't be reading it on audio too much. If some ideas come up while I'm reading it, I might take some notes, or I might talk about it a little bit, but I think it slows me down too much to read it, and just thinking about recording it while reading it makes me not really want to study it, in all honesty. Lately I'm needing things to just be pretty quick and not like way too in depth. I'm breaking things into small chunks so I can kind of chew them a little bit easier and spend a lot longer thinking about them. So I've been really, when I have recorded, just not really recording too often, but yeah, I should probably go to bed. That's about it for now, and have fun with all those things I just mentioned earlier, and have a good night or a good morning. Thanks for listening.